All righty. You are looking live at Sold Out MetLife Stadium where today the 16 and playoff bound New York Giants are taking on the 0-16 Green Bay Packers. And why are the Green Bay Packers 0-16? Because they suck. Man, that never gets old. Well, I'll tell you what. Welcome to the Gridiron. Hold on a second. I can move my chair for my buddy Randy here. Hold on. Watch out, buddy. Okay, Randy's here. All right. We can continue. All right. Anybody out there at all is going to spend a little bit of time with me here this evening, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Well, if anybody's going to spend any time watching a replay of this, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. Thank you. I'm going to try to go about 30 minutes here tonight, shoot my mouth off for about 30 minutes. Anybody got anything to say, please feel free, fire away, throw it in the chat box. Hey, usually try to check on the chat box like every 5 or 10 minutes. So as soon as I see something in there, I try to respond to it as fast as I can. So please feel free, fire away. But plus also, instead of me just rambling on for half an hour, 45 minutes, or last night, it was like almost an hour and 20 minutes. Holy cow, Batman. Instead of me just rambling on for a long time, it's just nice to talk to another Giant fan. So please feel free and fire away. Before I get started, if anybody wants to help support my channel out, it would mean the absolute world to me in the description box below. Top link in the description box takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. The first one's called the Saquon, second one's called the Lawrence Taylor, and the third one I got is called the Gridiron. Each one's got their own little perks to them, so if you want to help support my channel out, it would mean so much to me. I thank you in advance. Thank you. If you are subscribed to my channel, once again, thank you. I can use all the support I can get, guys. But if not, please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way, next time I go live or if I put a video out, you'll be notified. As free of charge. What do you got to lose, right? But if you are subscribed to my channel, thank you. And then finally, a little bit farther down in the description box, there's 2 additional links. The top one's a Facebook link, which I'll go over in just a minute. The other one underneath it, it's a Twitter link. It's always been Twitter. It's Twitter today. It'll be Twitter tomorrow. It'll be Twitter 7 trillion years from now. For me, anyway. Whatever letter of the alphabet Elon Musk wants to call it, that's on him. It's Twitter. I try to put some stuff in there every day, Giants related, of course. So if you follow me on Twitter, I will follow you back. That's an absolute promise. And then finally, the link right above it, it takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's a group. We have over 7,200 members. It's doing simply marvelous. Basically, if I'm alive and breathing, if I have internet access, there's stuff going in here darn near 365. And not only do I put stuff in there as well, but the members post stuff in there as well every day. So between me and the members, there's a boatload of New York Giants information going in here in the group, the New York Giants, the Gridiron group, every day. Become a member. You won't be dissatisfied. That's a promise. Well, all right. All that stuff said and done and out of the way with. Man, look at this. What do you do? Talking about money. Huh? I can put that in the bank. Well, you got to love Eli. You know, I mean, the guy just never wavers. You know what I mean? Win or lose. Obviously, when you win, he's got a smile on his face. But he's like this, never wavers. True Giant, right? True Giant. And big fan of Daniel Jones, and he ain't going to say nothing bad about Daniel Jones. And he seems to think, that the Giants are trying to maybe help build them around them. You can go both ways on that. You've certainly seen the good with him, but you've seen some bad with him too. There are some things that he's never going to become a Patrick Mahomes, obviously. Has he ever had, it's just amazing that some of these teams, they just get wide. It's almost like Penn State is like linebacker U. Or it used to be anyway. Just certain schools are just you think about them and right. You look at the Cowboys. It's like wide receiver university. They always got a dog always, right? They had Amani Cooper, right? Whatever. They let him go. Now they get ABCD Lamb there, right? I mean, but they always have some, for the most part, always got a dog, a number one dog, right? Right? That's Daniel Jones has not had it. We had a little security blanket, obviously, with Darren Waller, obviously. But, Darren Waller is going to have him for a little bit of time. But you can almost, as the sun rises in the morning and it sets in the evening, you can darn near bet your bottom dollar that Darren Waller next season is going to miss some time. If we have him for 3 years or whatever, the third year he's here, you can bet every dollar you bet. Oh, speaking of dollar, I can bet all it. And that's $300. Take all this, go down to Atlantic City, throw it down, right? Gamble it all. That in Darren Waller's third year with the Giants, he's going to miss some games, right? We had OBJ, right? Unfortunately, Odell, had got injured, right? But at least we had the dog, right? I mean, it's just some teams, they got the dog. I mean, you look at the Eagles, right? I mean, the Eagles have the defensive line, the offensive line, but they got DeVonta Smith and AJ Brown, right? They got the dog, right? We went out and signed Kenny Golladay, but he's not a dog. He's not a dog. He's go down, go deep. We'll throw it up, get a contested catch. You come down with it. Well, Dable and they don't want that, so they came in, right? And they had, we spent the money on Kenny Golladay. Well, hopefully, I think his salary will be off the record books after this season's all over. So going forward next season, Kenny Golladay, no mas, right, on the record books, money books, shall we say, right? But he hasn't had a dog. I mean, he had, Evan Ingram could be a mismatch at times, right? And all, but he's never had, right, the dog. Daniel Jones. We've tried to help with the offensive line, but the offensive line, one reason or the other, has always been, somewhat, you can say somewhat of a mess. A lot of times, injuries, coaching, if we had a better coach in here, could we have gotten better, right? I'm going to go over the struggles of the offensive line in a little bit. So I mean, you can certainly go both ways. Now, especially Daniel Jones, maybe he's taking a step back this season, maybe from what he seemed like he was last year. Is that because he's like shell shocked, right? Maybe staring down the wide receiver. I gotta, getting the ball, and it's like, okay, I'm only gonna have about a half a second before 13 guys are gonna be ripping my head off. Let me stare down the one receiver. He should take about 5 steps, turn whatever, and I'm going. So I'm not going to stand. I'm not standing in the pocket, right? Looking at first receiver, second, third, fourth. Okay, covered. Back to first. No, because my head's going to get ripped off, right? So I'm getting the ball and I'm staring this dude down, right? Because like whatever defense you might think, this might be the quickest avenue, get the ball out of my hands. Maybe try to get it. So maybe Weiss staring guys down, right? Obviously, of course, injuries due to the offensive line makes it very, very difficult to get any cohesiveness going on. That's another one of the things I'll be going over in the last part of my video here. The struggles of the offensive line. Not having to start in 5, right? Pretty much, set in stone going forward. Switching guys in, putting different guys in at guard and all that stuff and everything, which has its good points to it and its bad points. Some people out there, I listen to a bunch of videos and on that. And I'm not saying, I'm certainly not saying I'm better than anybody else out there. That's for sure. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'll be the first one to admit that. No, actually, my wife will be the first one to admit that. I'll be the second one to admit that. But some people just, seem to think, that they were watching like the Giants, training camp and all and everything, right? And seeming to think that they just didn't quite seem to settle on a starting five. They always had maybe Michael Schmitz, maybe Evan Neal, right? And then Andrew Thomas, but they didn't seem to have to settle in on the guards. They had some guys rotating in there and all that. And some of these people were just almost beside themselves just because they just didn't see a starting five in there, that the Giants had to start in five, and they just kept rolling. They were rotating some guys in there, and some people seem to be all upset about that. And there's good points and bad points to it, obviously. You want the same five in there all the time, obviously, in a perfect world, and they can work with one another, which would be absolutely huge. However, when you get injuries like the Giants had this season, you want to, that rotation kind of stuff, starts paying off a little bit. Well, we had injury here, but, this is why so-and-so is the left guard. Well, because he took a decent amount of snaps in preseason or training camp at left guard, so you got the guys in there taking some guys also took some snaps, at center, right? So when some injuries happen, right, you're kind of prepared, right? But so it's been going back to Eli. He's always like straight now. He's likes Daniel Jones. He's not going to talk bad about him, and he seems to think that the Giants should, try to build around them instead of maybe just getting rid of them and bringing another quarterback in, right? There's the top. If we get into the top five or so, maybe we might have a shot at Marvin Harrison Jr. There's a couple of nice tackles in there with, thinking about maybe tackles, in which I'm going to go over, but with the Evan Neal, maybe sliding Evan Neal in at guard. I'm going to go over that in a minute. But Daniel Jones seems to think more highly about, filling other needs. Now, the Giants, quite possibly, let's not forget, after the season's over with, we're going to have some other needs, right? Are we bringing Adoree Jackson back, right? If we do, it's going to be expensive. He's not 37 years old. He's not 33. He's not even 30 years old. He's going to command some money. Are we going to bring him back? If not, we got Banks, maybe Flott in the slot, right? I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. Flott in the slot. Who's going to be the other? Going to be Hawkins? Are we going to ever? I mean, it's almost like a Bigfoot sighting. Are we ever going to have an Aaron Robinson sighting on the field with the uniform on? Are we ever going to see that? Oh my God. Wouldn't that be like a miracle, right? Are we going to try to replace, Leo the Lion, right? I mean, because, Sexy Dexy, he's going to be him. He's going to do what he does, right? But, if you can kind of like double team him and run it Jordan Riley or Davidson or Nunez Roaches, right? I don't know if we're going to bring Ashawn Robinson back. It helps if you have the two studs in the defense, the clock, like what the Eagles kind of have, right? Two studs, Dexter Lawrence, and we're gonna try to replace Leonard Williams. McKinney, what are we gonna do with him? We're gonna bring him back, right? It's gonna cost you some money, or we're gonna have do we think Dane Belton? We're gonna have Pinnock and Belton back there? Are those gonna be our starting safeties? What are you doing with Saquon? Right? You could draft a nice running back in the third round. Sure. Third or fourth round. Absolutely. Sure. But I'm saying we got some holes. What are we doing at wide receiver? Right? We still don't have a dog. You got Hyatt out there, right? You can throw it deep. But there's a difference. Somebody who can go deep, Hyatt, right? Maybe take the top off, but is he a dog? A dog is someone every play. Like a Stephon Diggs or something like whatever. You're right. Any play, any given play, you can find this, just throw the ball to the wide. That's a dog. Somebody, we don't have that. So the Giants, they got some holes, obviously. And the offensive line. What do they think of, we're going to do with Evan Neal? And you keep hearing the same thing with Evan Neal. And I guess there's another article I saw with Evan Neal, so I'm going to go over that. But it's kind of like, Evan, he's got to, Shane said this, at his presser on Monday. Well, he's got to play better, Yep. He's got to stay healthy. He's got to stay healthy. I mean, because are we waiting for that perfect season? The perfect storm where Evan Neal stays healthy the whole season, and then he can hopefully develop himself. I mean, because he had some injuries. Whether they're his fault, he gets rolled up on and stuff. That's understand. It is what it is. But he's got to stay healthy. So Eli seems to think we should build around Daniel Jones. And here it says Giants. Why the speculation of the Giants will select a quarterback in next April's draft. Now, I believe that they probably will. Now, is it going to be the first round, or is it they're going to let's give Daniel Jones another year and let's maybe draft somebody in the second? There's some good quarterbacks out there. Definitely some good quarterbacks coming out, but they're going to take the guy in the top 10 or so where the Giants will be drafting in the first round, or they're going to maybe go to the second round or whatever. And, all right. So retired Giants, great. And future Football Hall of Famer Eli doesn't believe the team should just turn the page on the success of Daniel Jones just yet. He said, well, they have to make those decisions. I believe in Daniel. I think he's got a lot of talent, Manning told Giants Wire. Unfortunately, he got injured this year, and he's got two injuries, one being the ACL, which I know is frustrating. They were expected to have a big year, and it hasn't worked out that way. That's sports. That's football. That's what happens. So I think with where they stand, they could use that draft pick to fill some other needs. But hey, that's why they have a general manager and scouts to make those decisions. Manning has forged a close relationship with Daniel Jones, and he believes he's improved with an improved offensive line. Daniel Jones could continue to be an effective starter. Football is one of the great team sports, and so everybody has their responsibilities. Now, let's not forget, obviously, with Eli, he had the success, but, when you had Seibert and you had Deal, right, and you had O'Hara and you had Snee and you had McKenzie for, I don't know, was it like, I forgot exactly how many games in a row those guys played, but, they had him a year in and year out, Isn't any wonder we had some success. So, a lot of it, you can have good players, you can have good coaches, but if you don't have good luck and you get injuries, you're screwed. Well, the Giants, those guys played, I can't remember how many games in a row those guys played. Quite a few years in a row. They played every game. So, Eli had he had a lot of luck on his side with those guys staying healthy. Now, if we forget, let's not forget, those guys weren't, McKenzie was a high draft pick. Snee was a second round. What was it? He was picked what the heck pick was he? 34, 35 or something like that. So he was barely a second rounder, almost a first rounder, right? But the other guys, right? O'Hara, right? Undrafted free agent, so you don't need, all first rounders. But you also need some luck, and you need some good coaching as well too. And I'm not exactly sure. It's going to be interesting to see. Be very, very interesting to see if Bobby Johnson's back. Bobby. You can certainly go both ways with Bobby Johnson. Do I think he's a top 10 offensive line coach? No. But has he kind of been screwed over this season with all these injuries? Oh yeah. The starting different offensive linemen, with the offensive line combinations we've had, the amount of just combinations we've had on the, that's not easy. That's not easy. And I think he's done an admirable job there. But, can we get somebody better? Well, be interesting to say. I said it'd be interesting to see where Shane and Dable stand after the season's over with. if they're going to keep Bobby Johnson around or not. But also said the same thing with the offensive line. And I said, you don't need all first rounders on there to be successful. Other teams have showed that. But, Eli, let's see here. Jones is rehabbing from the surgery, right? And should be ready for the 2024 season. The Giants are locked into him for at least the next season. And if anything, they could select a quarterback to develop behind Jones as insurance. Whether they will use a first-round pick on that is a question. This week, General Manager Joe Schoen spoke about the teams playing the quarterback. And what he said is that, somewhere along, they're definitely, going to have to do something at the quarterback position without question. Because he was saying Tyrod Taylor's his contract's over. It doesn't sound like they're planning on bringing him back. So what we're looking at is we got Daniel Jones, we got Tommy DeVito, and we don't even know if Daniel Jones will be even ready for week one. He might. He's going to try his butt off to try to be ready for week one, but is he going to be? Shane was like, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't even know. So instead of having just Tommy DeVito and maybe Daniel Jones might be ready, they're going to definitely do something without question. Now, as I said, they're going to pull the trigger on a real low draft choice at quarterback, or they're going to wait maybe to the, maybe a little later in the draft, a second day pick, or maybe get crazy and go to a third day pick, or maybe pick somebody up in free agency and let Tommy DeVito start the season. Daniel Jones, if Daniel Jones ain't ready, let Tommy start the season. Daniel Jones comes back, then Daniel Jones takes over the reins, and we have somebody else, whether they want to try to keep developing Tommy DeVito, or whether they draft a quarterback or something like that and want to develop him behind Daniel Jones. We'll have to wait and see. But we do know, without question, Daniel Jones will be back. And if they let him go, just saying, if they do let him go after next season, he's like at least a $20 million dead cap hit. So that's some lost money there. But the Giants, after next season, can, if they want to, get away from Daniel Jones. But just hearing that from Eli, you knew. He wasn't gonna. I don't think he was ever going to say, I need to move on from Daniel Jones. I don't think he was ever going to say that. It's just so, I don't know. You just think, how many quarterbacks out there, right? Next year will be Daniel Jones' sixth season with the Giants, right? How many other quarterbacks out there, all right, basically have gone, it may be going into their sixth season with the same team that drafted them, and the team that drafted them is like, man, not sure, is he the guy or shit? Should we build around this guy? Give him one more shot? How many other quarterbacks out there? He's like a cat. He's got like 9 lives. There's going to be a 6th season coming up. And it's still kind of like, are we going to build with this guy? Or? Oh, my goodness. The Daniel Jones saga. All right, so that's the next thing is Evan Neal. Is he better fit a guard or a tackle? Now, the one thing is with him, this is what, SI, Sports Illustrated. His height, it makes it a little, he's better off suited with his height to be maybe out wide. But the problem, as we've seen, is he has a hard time with these edge rushers. Get him in a phone booth, and his size and strength, he's able to take over. He's good at double teams, right? But as we've seen many times, when he's out on an island, right, and he's got to, back up, and it's one-on-one with an elite, freakish athlete, right? It's trying to get to the quarterback behind him. Evan Neal quite often struggles. So maybe in a phone booth, right, where he's not worried about, I got to get back real fast, set up and try to, he's not worried about that. Maybe use his size and strength and all that and the length, right, to his advantage, right? So I said, so this was on Sports Illustrated said when the Giants drafted offensive lineman Evan Neal, the hope was that they found their bookend to line up opposite Andrew Thomas. However, over a season and a half into the Neal era, many fans have already given up on the Alabama product being the answer at right tackle. While it's entirely too early to believe that Neal will not figure it out, it is proper to ask if the struggles are a product of not being a natural fit for the right side also. After all, outside of his sophomore season at Tuscaloosa, his high school and collegiate career was primarily spent on the left side. So although we know he won't replace Thomas, absolutely frickin' not, there's no reason why he could not play alongside Thomas. Interesting. Left guard is a glaring weakness on the Giants' offensive line, but someone like Neal could bolster that position and conceal his deficiencies. Now, that's right? If he's been used to being on the left side, when you're taking steps back, right? But Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal next to him might be a winning combo. Very interesting. Then they show some tape here. It says the tape has shown that Neal struggles against the speed rush off the edge. At right tackle, he's left on an island, and the results have been poor. But there is more to this game than pass protection, and Neal has done some nice work as a run block that has mostly gone unnoticed. As a guard, he would no longer be on an island, and the speed rush from between the tackles would be much more manageable than the speed rush off the edge. He would solidify the left side of the offensive line and provide the team with a dominant side to run behind. Yes, it would. Let's explore this as Neal's qualities that we think would make him a Pro Bowl caliber left guard. Double teams. Neal is great on double teams. His size and athleticism allow him to collapse a defender and open up massive lanes for running backs to run through. His double teams never get split. And in many cases over this and last season, Neal was not blessed with a guard who can bring the same level of power and intensity that he does. Imagine pairing him with Thomas and watching them collapse the entire left side of the defensive line. Both are athletic enough to peel off the double team and block a second-level defender, and whoever is left can handle the block on their own. He would also be a big help on double teams with Schmidt against a dominant nose tackle. Absolutely. Say what you want about Neal, but the one thing you better mention is he can move, and he moves people. As a guard, he's big and strong, which allows him to get movement on those stubborn nose guards who seemed anchored to the ground. He has a powerful punch that stops a bull rush, and if he catches a defender flat-footed, he can push them into the linebacker's lap or plant them on the ground. Yes. One of the other underrated aspects of his game is his ability to pull or climb to the second level. There is not a lot of opportunity to do that at tackle in the Giants scheme, but the guard does it quite a bit. Neal on trap blocks or kick-out blocks would be devastating. Watching that mountain of a man pull around the corner or run at defensive backs on a screen pass would also be scary. Yep. Most people think that if you play left tackle, then right tackle should be simple, but that's not the case. Most basketball players cannot make a layup equally from either hand. That's right. Yes, in an empty gym with nobody around them, they may look good, but the story might be different when the bodies start flying, when the bodies hit the floor. The same logic applies for tackle. Some are just naturally better kick sliding to the left than to the right. Neal has never looked comfortable on the right side of the line. Feel and comfort play a large role in success. A return to the left side, even at guard, is a return to familiarity and comfort. It is a return to confidence. Never forget that most Giant fans were salivating over drafting Neal because of what he did playing on the left side at Alabama. As a true freshman, he started at left guard, and as junior, he was an All-American at left tackle. The move would allow him to tap into his natural gifts while also building the confidence that has been shaken after struggles and injuries. Now, I mean, I'm saying, you start thinking about that, right? Put Thomas at left tackle, Evan Neal at left guard, and Michael Schmitz at center. That might be a nice threesome. I know there's some good tackles coming out, really, really good tackles. And Bill Parcells has always been a big, huge proponent of getting the offensive line. Now, obviously, the guys we had on the offensive line back with Coach Parcells back in the 80s, from 83 to 90, we did not have a ton of guys drafted in the first round starting on that offensive line. We had some guys, undrafted free agents, later round draft picks, and all of that. But you got to. It's very important to get the two lines situated: the defensive front and the offensive front. If one of them gets pushed around, I mean, if your defensive line gets pushed around, how are you going to stop anybody? If your offensive line can't push people around, how are you going to score any points, right? So Bill Parcells was absolutely huge on getting some tough dudes, right, on the offensive line. And, he was a huge proponent of that. The Giants, they got to do something. Got to do something. But, I mean, that's something to think about, especially if he struggles once again next season. Right, because then they're gonna need, before this fourth season, they're gonna have to make that decision on his fifth season, because if you pick up his fifth-year option, you have to do that before the beginning of the fourth season, I believe. So, I mean, he's got to stay healthy next season, and he's got to show that he can do some improvement, because seriously, at right tackle, pick number 7 in the draft. You just want someone that's just he's all right. He's improving. He's not too bad. Is that what you want from a pick 7 at right tackle? Yeah, he seems to be picking it up a little bit. He's kind of getting there. Maybe by his 18th season he'll be maybe a Pro Bowl caliber kind of guy, maybe I don't know. Is that what you want? I mean, are we waiting around like, well, maybe in the 8th, 9th year, maybe he'll be all right? I mean, is that what you really want? I mean, and I get it. Also, it's kind of unfair to him. Injuries. I get it. But next season's going to be huge. He needs to show something. And he needs to stay healthy. Huge. Because, you can't, after next season, say he misses 5-6 games, whatever. Hopefully not. I hope the guy never misses another freaking game. And I'm pulling for him. The guy has got his head on right. The guy, there's certain, he's trying. Now, whether he's ever going to be a Pro Bowler or this or that, I don't got a crystal ball either. But the guy's trying. Right. As I said, that's all you can ask for. He's trying. Ain't nobody more embarrassed or pissed off than Evan Neal is with his play. Right. And once this season's over with, what he's going to do. He's going to go back and he's going to start. He's going to work on his craft. No, don't have to worry about that. He's not sitting down eating ding dongs and watching Netflix and drinking beer. That's not happening. He's going to work on his craft. But next season is a huge season for Evan Neal. Got to see improvement, and he's got to stay healthy. I mean, if he misses a game, okay, maybe a game or two or something, okay, all right. But, if he starts missing a whole bunch of, what are you supposed to do? Well, we'll wait around. Maybe by his 8th or 9th season, maybe he'll stay healthy for all season. Maybe, kind of. Your best ability is your availability. If every freaking year you're getting injured, if your first season you got injured, I get it. It is what it is. You're getting rolled up on and stuff. It is what it is. But, if your first season you miss a bunch of games, your second season you miss a bunch of games, your third season, say next season he misses 5-6 games, what do you think is going to happen the fourth season? Right? And I get it. It is what it is. It is also amazing, though, how sometimes, like some guys just every year get on the offensive line, just get banged up or injured or rolled up on or whatever. And then you look at some other teams, like their starting 5 are there the whole time and nobody even gets rolled up on or anything. Absolutely amazing. But next season's a huge season for Evan Neal. huge season for Evan Neal. I mean, because I mean, they're going to pick up his 5th-year option for a first-round tackle, and then they're going to sign him to a maybe if they want thinking about maybe signing to a long-term deal or something like that. It's going to cost them some money, and you can't make a mistake. You can't sign. I'm just throwing a number out there. Can't sign a guy to say $20 million a season, $15 to $20 million a season, and be wrong about it. Right? That's costly. We saw that with Kenny Golladay and other guys and everything like that. So next season's a huge season for Evan Neal. It'd be interesting to see once again if they do think about maybe moving him inside. Right? The guy's got. I mean, there's only so many human beings. This was the George Young rule, right? I forgot exactly what they call it, but there's only so many human beings walking the earth, okay, that are 6'7". I mean, there's human beings 6'7" that are 300 and something pounds or whatever, but there's only so many human beings walking the earth who are like 6'7", 330, 340, whatever, that have that God-gifted athletic ability. So not only so much you don't want to give up on talent, right? But to give up on somebody that freaking huge and big and athletic and all of that, I mean, which leads me to my next point. Maybe, just maybe, once again, left tackles, phenomenal, all pro, they just don't walk. You just can't pull them off the trees, right? Same thing with my next point we're going to bring up. Offensive line coaches. They're just not, I'll go in the backyard and I'll pick one off the tree. Okay. This is our new offensive line coach. He's pretty good too. He's good. Yeah, he's going to be he's going to make our offensive line. We're going to be number 1 in rushing this year. We're going to be number 1 in pass. It's good. No, there's only so many of them out there. We saw, you could try to bring somebody in from the college ranks. Right. I mean, that's a nice step up for somebody like that. You don't have to worry about trying to, hopefully somebody's, an offensive line coach. You can't, you have to give them like offensive line coach and assistant offensive coordinator or something like that. You have to give somebody something like that. You can't really have a lateral move. You can't just try to steal another offensive line coach from another team. Like the Eagles, he's real. I never remember the guy's name, but he's really, really good. So you either have to try to get somebody who just got let go, but I mean, if you have somebody that's really that good, they usually just don't get let go. Usually they're employed. So you got to find somebody who's not employed, who's really good, or somebody's just taking some time away, like Mike Munchak. Or I said, you got to go into maybe the college ranks and try to find somebody like what we did with Robert Sale. I believe it was Sale, I believe his name was, with the Judge. He was here for the 1 year, I think it was. Didn't really set the world on fire for the Giants anyway. But, I mean, he had phenomenal numbers. The Raging Cajuns, I believe it was. He had great numbers there. You can try to take a chance on somebody like that. Somebody, with the players that Sale, I believe his name was, had with the Raging Cajuns and what they were able to do, the numbers they were able to perform, that's the kind of guys you're looking for. Especially guys that, take a little and get a lot out of a little, right? And that's what he did. So, I mean, there's college coaches out there that probably wouldn't mind, stepping up from the college ranks and going to the pro rank, right? So, if there's some guys out there the Giants, maybe look for, if they let go Bobby Johnson, if they let go, they got. I mean, it's the same. I don't know. What's the meaning of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting much different results. Yeah. Now, once again, I said with Bobby Johnson, does he try? Oh yeah, absolutely. Has he kind of been a little screwed over this season with all these injuries? Oh, absolutely. I mean, my God, what was it? 5 minutes into the first game, right? We're getting our kickers. He got cleated, stepped on or cleated, kick gets blocked, runs back for a freaking touchdown. And you can obviously argue the best offensive player we got, Andrew Thomas, goes hauling it ish after the guy trying to score a touchdown pulls his hamstring. So you got 5 minutes into the first game of the season, boom. I mean, the offensive line is almost totally just screwed over, right? So I mean, has Bobby Johnson been screwed over? Oh yeah, absolutely. But so we'll have to wait and see. It'll be very interesting. But I say, but with Mike Munchak, I mean, because he's well, not to say a free agent. He was kind of let go. This is from Big Blue View. Somebody asked Ed Valentine. Ed Valentine has been following the Giants since like 1842 or so. He's been there a long time. Very, very knowledgeable. So somebody asked him, says, with Mike Munchak's contract as the Broncos offensive line coach not being renewed, have the Giants reached out to him to coach the O-line since he's publicly stated he misses coaching? And Ed Valentine says, Brian, Mike Munchak is a Hall of Famer and one of the best offensive line coaches in the business. He is currently out of coaching to take care of some physical ailments and does want back in, from what I understand. I don't know if the Giants have reached out to him if they move on from Bobby Johnson after the season. It certainly wouldn't hurt to ask. Munchak will have suitors if he truly wants back in. Absolutely. You got that freaking kid. Yeah, that's job security. He's a Hall of Famer player, but if you're a good offensive Hall of Fame player and a good offensive, I mean, that's sometimes that's really tough. Getting that combo, not being a good player and being a good coach. A lot of times you've seen like really good players that maybe become head coaches or something like that, and they just don't seem to work out really, really well, right? Or sometimes maybe they become coaches, and sometimes they don't work out really well. Sometimes you see the guys who really weren't really good players become really good coaches, right? But Mike Munchak he's one of, I'm not saying it hasn't happened or whatever, but a lot of times you see guys who were not really good players become really good coaches. But Mike Munchak, I mean, being a player and he coached. What did he coach? He only coached a couple of seasons, and it wasn't that great. What do we got here? He was the coach. We got for the Tennessee Oilers, for the Tennessee Titans, head coach, 2011 and 2013. So he coached for 3 seasons, right? But he was with the Houston Oilers, Tennessee Oilers, and the Tennessee Titans for like about 30 years. But to find someone like him who is like a Hall of Fame player and a phenomenal coach, that's really special, really, really special. But with I said Ed Valentine was talking about here, if he truly wants back in, and there is no prior relationship, okay, between him and Dable. I mean, obviously, that's certainly by any quite doesn't mean that I'll forget about it. But a lot of times like Dable and Shane are like people that they're familiar with, aka Bobby Johnson, right? Ed Valentine says, I would think him coming to the Giants would be a long shot, but I certainly couldn't blame the Giants for looking into it. Sometimes, obviously coaches like to go with this familiarity. They get comfort. Sometimes the situation just has to be, sometimes, some guys maybe just not up for it. I mean, sometimes they want, okay, the Giants, hey, we got Evan Neal, a good draft pick. We got Andrew Thomas. We got Michael Schmitz. We got 2 first rounders. We got a second rounder. A little shaky guard, right? But sometimes coaches they want different situations, or they want certain powers that they're not going to get other places and stuff like that. And sometimes they want familiarity. They want to come be an offensive line coach with a coach or with a GM or with other that they're familiar with and stuff like that. And there's no ties there at all between Dable and Mike Munchak. But if you can, get him out of retirement or something like that, I think that would be a huge, huge help for the Giants. Once again, I said, you keep, doing the same thing over and over. I said, I don't even know if we stayed healthy and all this, is Bobby Johnson good enough where he's going to propel us? The start offensive line would be a top 10 unit or something like that. I don't know. That I don't know. But I mean, once again, that's going to be one of those, a lot of decisions. Is Kafka going to come back? Because he's been kind of screwed over a little bit with the offensive line. Once again, we our best passing weapon, receiving weapon is hamstring, right? We have no real dog wide receiver. We lost our offensive starting quarterback 2 times. We lost our backup quarterback. It's been a revolving door on the offensive line. So Kafka's kind of been hamstrung or handcuffed quite a bit as far as what he's able to do, right? But I'm saying, we're going to bring Kafka back, Bobby Johnson, other guys who might find jobs other places. Is there truly, a problem between Wink and Dable button heads? Obviously, Wink and Dable are going to downplay it. But the reports that came out, Jay Glazer was saying that there is some problems, and apparently seems like I don't know who in God's right mind would pick the phone up or text and I got to tell Jay Glazer what's going on here. Call my buddy Jay. I don't know who is calling that guy. He's got to be getting his source from somebody. It's got to be somebody in the building is for whatever reason. Let me talk to my buddy Jay. But I don't know what's going on here. It ain't none of his business what's going on in there. But apparently Jay Glazer seems to, has a good insight on some things. And if he says there's a little bit of smoke going on there could be some fire. So that's going to be interesting there. Is Wink Martindale going to be back? I have to wait and see. Got a lot. Once this season's over with, a lot of stuff. But the one thing would be is that with the coaches, there's a good chance, not the head coach, but I'm saying there's a good chance that kind of like right after the season's over with, that's when you cut ties. You don't want to wait, halfway through training camp and stuff like that. Oh, we're going to let Mike Kafka go. No, like first week after the season's over with, that's when you start letting coaches go, right? If you, and also then you start working on the free agents you want to bring, you keep, on your own squad and all of that. So, but you still have time for that because the free agency is until March. So you have time there. But if you're going to move on from coaches, you want to get rid of them as soon as humanly possible so you can start working on bringing other coaches in, right? All right, and then finally, what was this here? Then, of course, we have the Giants' offensive line struggles. Oh, yeah, this is from another one from Sports Illustrated there. And, of course, you can go on and on with this one. But here it says, for almost a decade, every general manager of the New York Giants has made it a mission to improve the offensive line to a level that team enjoyed during the 2006 and 2010 season. Basically, that was the Seibert, right, deal, O'Hara, Snee, McKenzie line, right there, like the 5 years right there, right? Because when 2011 rolled around, O'Hara was gone. Snee was there. McKenzie was there. Seibert, did he get injured again? I think Seibert was injured again. So a couple of those guys weren't there. So I think only like 3 of those guys were there for the 2011. Because Boss was the Booth was in there with the big old butt he had. Boss. I forgot what his first name was. He was the center. So we had some moving part. That the offensive line was not very good at all in 2011. So it was amazing. We even made it to the Super Bowl with the offensive line struggles that we had. But anyway, so from 2006 to 2007 included David Deal, Rich Seibert, O'Hara, Snee, and McKenzie. was a rarity in that it not only performed at a high level, it also managed to stay healthy for almost its whole time, for almost 5 full years, which is absolutely just crazy, silly, you might say. These days, it's been a challenge for the Giants and other offensive lines around the league. Giants had hoped to fix their offensive line woes by adding rookie center John Michael Schmitz to a unit that already had Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. And speaking of Neal, the Giants were looking for their second-year player to take a leap forward in development. Meanwhile, it was widely believed that the coaches hoped for the second-year man, Joshua Ezeudu, to win the starting left guard position and for veteran Mark Lewinsky to hold down the fort one more year at right guard. Now, especially in the beginning, I'll tell you what, Lewinsky was horrible. Then he got benched and he came back and he started performing well, but it should never have come to that. I mean, he should never have been benched. He should never have played that bad. Says those plans went up in smoke, starting with the Ezeudu's inability to beat out veteran Ben Bredesen. Then throwing injuries to Thomas, Neal, and Schmitz that caused each man to miss multiple games. And suddenly the Giants, who these days continue to rank at or near the bottom of the league, according to Pro Football Focus, pass blocking efficiency, they're just left scrambling to try to find guys to fill the roles in the offensive line. Yet injuries are a part of it. But other factors were in the coaches' control that, in retrospect, they probably should have done things differently. Depth. The Giants planned starting offensive line tackle Andrew Thomas, left guard Ezeudu, Michael Schmitz, Lewinsky, and Evan Neal. On paper, it was a solid unit. The problem is that the coaches were counting on 3 things to happen. The first was the offensive line's health, a huge gamble in any given year. Injuries to Thomas, Schmitz, and Neal have caused them to miss multiple games, thereby sabotaging the continuity and exposing a lack of quality depth, which we'll get into in a moment. The second thing was the improvement of Neal. Their second-string right tackle, Neal, worked all offseason trying to find a more comfortable stance for himself at the right tackle, and even working with former All-Pro NFL offensive lineman Willie Anderson in the offseason. And he worked on his stance. But, however, the results haven't been there at all this season, and it can be argued that Neal, who has played in 7 games because of injuries, is worse than he was in his first season. According to Pro Football Focus, Neal allowed a quarterback pressure once every 10.26 pass blocking snaps as a rookie last season. That total has risen slightly this year with to one every 10.3 pass blocking snaps. So basically, it's about the same. He's given up a pressure about the same as he was in his rookie season. For retrospect, Neal has played in 225 fewer pass blocking snaps. So to be fair, the Giants try to anticipate injuries by working with various guys in multiple positions, which can be huge, right? But that had a trickle-down effect and not a good one, which we'll discuss momentarily. Personnel decisions. The right way to build an offensive line is to have your 5 starters and develop players in the background to eventually plug in if injuries strike. And somewhere among those reserves, having some established veterans on board is probably not a bad idea. The Giants, however, decided to roll with youth. Yes, a lot of youth. They couldn't retain Nick Gates and John Feliciano, both of whom could have offered depth at guard and center, and decided to roll with Shane Lemieux. Oh, my God. The snake-bitten interior offensive lineman who's played just 18 career games due to injuries and who is again on injury reserve once again. They cut Tyree Phillips, and then they had to wind up bringing him back. Instead, they kept Matt Pat, who is yet to pan out for the team due in part to injuries. He's currently on the injury reserve again this season, and in part of his development have played just 40 games over 4 seasons. So I'm sure he will be no mas after the season's over. Yet when they needed a swing tackle to step in for Andrew Thomas was injured, they went with Joshua Ezeudu, who didn't work at all at tackle during the summer, only being tossed into the role with about 10 days to go before the start of the regular season. And speaking of Ezeudu, who was in 2 seasons has appeared in just 16 games due to injuries, calling into question how ready he was for live action. And it didn't end there. As a horrible week 1 outing against the Cowboys, Mark Lewinsky was benched in favor of Marcus McKeithen. Oh, my God. a player who had not only missed most of the start of training camp while sitting on the PUP list after missing his entire rookie season due to an injury. McKeithen started weeks 2 to 5 before landing back on the bench as a reserve due to injury. McKeithen, in 242 pass blocking snaps this season, allowed 17 quarterback pressures, or one every 14.23 pass blocking snaps. He also decided to bench Glowinski after he had admittedly horrible game against the Cowboys in week 1. For McKeithen, who missed his entire rookie season due to an ACL injury. The biggest personnel decision was the failure to find a solid swing tackle option. Again, the team decided to roll with Parrott, who played 9 games for this staff the year prior after coming off a PUP due to a torn ACL suffered in 2021. PFF data, Parrott has allowed one quarterback pressure every 13.2 pass blocking snaps, a career 95.1 pass blocking efficiency rating. Then he talked about indecisiveness. When it came to getting the offensive line settled, this is where the coaches had their biggest failure. While it's understandable that they wanted to get as many guys ready to play multiple positions in the event of injury, that they kept rotating different guys in and out of the lineup throughout the end of training camp was a head scratcher because it wrecked their continuity, which is something is so important, continuity. First, some guys didn't get a chance to work together in the summer, such as Shane Lemieux, who, to my recollection, never took snaps with the first offensive line. But beyond that, the Giants never settled on a starting 5 early enough to allow those players to develop continuity. With the injury started happening, the further set the unit back in terms of having a chance whatsoever of establishing any type of continuity. Now, this was also this is from Patty Trainer. She was one of the ones that she was like all upset, beside herself and everything. She just couldn't understand that. Like as training camp, they had the starting 5 in there. They would have guys in there, and they would rotate guys, maybe a guard and stuff like that. She would just be like just beside herself. She just couldn't understand why do we have the same guy in there and everything. But I mean, it also had its good points though too, because when injuries started happening, you had guys in there that took snaps at other positions. Why? Because you were rotating them in, right? So it's a catch-22. It's almost like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It's really frustrating, obviously, for the Giants. It was also frustrating for us fans because how long have we been saying we need to fix the offensive line? We need to fix, and next season we're going to be saying the same thing. We need to fix the offensive. How many years have we got to keep going before we fix the offensive line? And I said, once again, it's the same thing. Meaning of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. You don't, it's just so frustrating because you don't need 5 first-rounders on the offensive line, right? And I've said this before. This is one time oddly enough, the 1971, the Oakland Raiders had 5 future Hall of Famers on the offensive line, right? They didn't even make the playoffs. 5 future Hall of Famers on the offensive line. I think they even played together for a game or 2 on the offensive line, and they didn't make the playoffs, right? But it's just very, very frustrating, especially for us fans, the coach, everybody. You know what I mean? You just fix the offensive line, and they try, and it just never seems to work out. Never seems to work out. You just kind of will there ever be a time that the Giants will ever get or a decent resemblance of an offensive line? If the injuries continue to happen, if we keep having revolving doors at certain positions and all and everything, it's going to be tough. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Doesn't matter. It's if you can't get the offensive line solidified and at least functioning decently, you got a real hard time scoring some points. Can't score some points. You're not going to score, especially in today's game. If you're going back to 1930s, you can put up 13 points a game or so and have a pretty good record. You can't put up 13 points a game today's NFL and expect to have a decent record, especially much less make the playoffs. So Giants got a lot of work cut out for them. As I said, in the first round, they wound up taking one. There's a couple tackles out there. One guy from Notre Dame, the guy that I can't pronounce. Is it Alt from Notre Dame? But the guy I can't pronounce his name from Penn State, another good tackle. They have to do their homework. I mean, if they bring one of those guys in at tackle, cool. I'm all for it. So maybe slide Neal in the guard, right? And then you can maybe pick up another guard, maybe unless for some reason you think Bredesen can be your guard, or Zudu. I don't even want to think about McKeithen being a starting guard. Don't even want to, and I'm sure Lemieux is gone because he can't stay healthy. And Glowinski, if they let him go after this season, they'll save about $5 million toward the salary cap. So the Giants got some questions. They certainly got some issues. But we won't find that out until free agency starts and the draft and all that and everything. So, all right, guys, it's been 1 hour. Whoever spent any time listening to me live, thank you. If anybody spends any time watching the replays, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. Thank you. As always, you guys stay safe out there and go Giants. Woo! Oh, yeah.